What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Xbox and the Game Awards. Last week, we talked about PlayStation. I went over all the upcoming PlayStation games and talked about, what makes sense to be shown at the Game Awards. So you could go check that video if you want. Today's Xbox's turn, and I think Xbox honestly has quite a few titles. They got quite a bit that they could do. It's tough because they have that developer direct in January, and, sometimes it's a mix. Sometimes it's third-party stuff. We've seen that with, Ninja Gaiden, right? But it's very much tied to Xbox. And then sometimes it's, the first-party studios and the first-party games. And so, you could really look at any of them and say, all right, well, if they're not at the Game Awards, could we see them in January? June, of course, is their big show. 2 years ago, it was the biggest show, I think, of all time. Last year was a lot weaker than the year before it. But, those shows can be pretty darn big as well. So, okay, here's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you can talk about long range, and I think you got games like Clockwork Revolution, and I would say the future of Halo beyond Halo 1, okay? You can go down that list. State of Decay 3. Can we please one day get a release date for State of Decay 3? That game just feels like it's in trouble, by the way. But anyway, you got games that are a couple years out, right? Maybe 1, maybe 2, or longer, right? Then you got your close games, and the close games is kind of where they're flooded. And I made the same case with PlayStation, right, where it's okay, do you talk about or do you show the games that are just about to come out, or do you have a mix? Now, I wouldn't expect there to be that many reveals, right? Just like I said with PlayStation, I would say at max you're getting 2, okay? Don't expect, I would say, the Game Awards to be an Xbox show. In the same way, I would say don't expect the Game Awards to be a PlayStation show. They might get 1 or 2 games each. They can be big games, but they might only get 1 or 2 games each, right? So, okay, for Xbox, at least for this upcoming year, you can kind of whittle it down a little bit to Gears E-Day, Halo 1's remake, Forza Horizon, and Fable. Those would be, to me, the big 4. Now, I think right before I recorded this, I think I saw maybe an artist on Clockwork Revolution listed on their page that game was going to come out in 2026. All right, add that to it as well. So 5 games. They have quite a bit. They have a lot of games. And even in terms of when they could release, it's a little messy because think about the fall. You'd probably release a lot of them in the fall, but you got GTA and other stuff there. So we'll see how it all goes. But those 4, and I guess if you want to do Clockwork Revolution as an honorary 5th member, right? Those 4 are your close ones, so do any of them have a chance? So personally, I think Gears would be that showstopper. You talk about games that can do that. I think Gears, of that group, to be honest with you, they're all kind of big. I mean, Forza's, they're the least interesting to me just because I'm interested in the other games. But Forza might outsell, half of the other games, we're talking about, or half the other games that get announced at the Game Awards. Forza is a gigantic franchise, right? It's not to discount it. It's just a personal biasness, I guess, I have against it, I guess, in that way. I respect it. I just, I'm not super into it. Could that move the needle at all? Perhaps. You think about all of these games, that one is probably the closest to releasing. I mean, Fable has been the most wishy-washy. If that game came out, Fable, if that game came out in April, I wouldn't be shocked. If that game came out in December, I wouldn't be shocked, right? It could really, actually, I'll throw in another one. If Fable was announced to be delayed and it's not coming out until 2027, I also wouldn't be shocked. It's just one of those games, it feels like, where you could release it in 6 months. It would be, it wouldn't throw me off guard. You could tell me it's coming out mid-2027. I wouldn't be, taken aback either from it. But I will say, I guess if we're just jumping at the speed that I'm doing it right now, okay, Forza is big. I just don't know if it moves the needle. At the same time, a pro that game has is that it's probably the first of the group to come out, right? So that's maybe, I guess. Fable, I will say Fable in particular, kind of needs to be shown off the most. You could argue maybe Gears, but Gears E-Day, I feel like people are pretty high on that. I think people are excited, people are ready. And there's maybe just a bit more trust going on there. And coming out in the fall too, it's not jumping around as much as Fable did, and I just feel like there's more of a trust with Gears than Fable. So yeah, I really would, I think, argue that Fable of all of these is the one that they've been dancing around Fable for so long, right? There has to become a point where you just show it and you say, okay, here's 10 minutes of footage. Now, that doesn't sound like something you would do at the Game Awards, if I'm being honest with even myself, right? Fable needs to kind of be sat down with, needs to be sat down with, right? And we need to kind of just show us a quest. You know what Blood of Dawnwalker has done, in the past couple months? Do that with Fable. Show me one quest from beginning to end so you can see conversations, you can see the combat, you can kind of see the tone of the game, because that's kind of not easy to figure out from everything that we've seen because they're so short clips, right? So that's kind of what I would want from Fable. This is not really the place to do that. Game Awards actually would be the place to do clips and jump around in a trailer. So maybe Fable makes more sense for the developer direct in January. Like, I actually think Fable works really well for that and maybe doesn't work so well for the Game Awards. Gears probably moves the needle quite a bit. Huge franchise. In terms of the big games, we keep saying them all. I mean, Gears, I think, again, maybe a biasness, but I feel like it might be the best one that's going to come out, within this next year, I guess. So we'll see. I guess the jury's out until we play them all. But Gears, I feel like the more I talk about it, the more I say that one word, I feel like that one probably makes the most sense, okay? If we're talking about close to release games from Xbox. See, the thing with Halo, like, that actually would have made sense too, but that was just shown. And, it's not to say you can't show it again, and maybe they do show it again, but I just feel Gears is the one that really would stand out, even against Halo, which Halo arguably is bigger, right? Probably is, I think, statistically, but Gears, I think, has, the time, like, it's been a while since we saw it, and it was a really nice reveal. And Halo's was a little bit more mixed. I think still generally pretty positive, but also just happened like a couple months ago, right? So it's maybe not as shocking to people if you showed it off like just a couple months after you first revealed it. So in terms of my predictions there, that's kind of what I would lean to. I would kind of say Gears if you're looking to really have that big, huge game. Halo, I would say more 50-50, but maybe more towards like 30-70. Fable, I think, needs it. I would like to see Fable, maybe more than I would like to see any of them, because I'm just really curious of like how that game is actually going to turn out. But at the same time, again, I think the format and what I'd be looking for from Fable does not suit like a 2-minute trailer, right? I think you kind of need more than that. It's not to say maybe you could do a 4-minute trailer, surprise me, I guess. And then Forza, I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if Forza is there and they showed like a gameplay trailer, because really we just know setting, we just know it's Japan, right? And again, because it's the closest game to coming out, does it also kind of deserve a deep dive? I think the answer is yes. I actually think that it's going to get it. And I think that's probably same thing as Fable. If nothing happens at the Game Awards, I would say Forza and Fable would probably be locked in to that developer direct in January. Beyond that, I mean, like, do you want to do something with Avowed so soon? Do you want to throw like a tease of Fallout? I mean, this is right before, I believe, Fallout Season 2 would come out like a week after the Game Awards. Like, the thing is, do you have any of that ready? Are you like in a position to show it and have a game come out like within 5 years, versus like any later than that? You could. I mean, look, to announce like a brand new Fallout game or to go like that crazy, that would be gigantic, but it's like Elder Scrolls. Could you do Elder Scrolls? Like, that's maybe 2-3 years away, maybe. But the way Todd Howard's been talking and the way Bethesda's been talking, I don't think they want to show Elder Scrolls until like the year it's coming out. And even then, that feels like you're asking quite a lot from them. So those are just a couple other ideas off the top of my head. You don't show CODs this early, like, for sure. Of course, I guess the return of like Crash or Spyro, that does fall under Xbox, so I guess we should consider it. Well, let me just throw it out there real fast. Okay, here's one thing I will say. I do think Crash, in terms of team racing, like Team Racing 2 or Nitro Fuel 2, whatever you want to call it, I do actually think that's possible. I would put that way higher than even Spyro at this point, just because Crash seems to have so much like internet momentum for some reason. That is not crazy. I'm glad I remembered that live when recording this video, because if we get, it would be odd. It would definitely be odd. But if you walk away from the Game Awards and the only Xbox representation is Crash Bandicoot, number one, we're living in like a parallel universe, right? But number two, I would actually be very happy with that. Like, I wouldn't mind that, even though, I just talked up Fable for 5 minutes. I wouldn't be, I guess, that caught off guard, and I wouldn't be disappointed literally at all if we walked out with like a brand new Crash game coming, even if it's a racing game. I would not be saddened by that, like, whatsoever. So those are a couple. I mean, I could always go back to the well of like, when are we going to get those freaking Transformers and Spider-Man games on Game Pass? Probably never at this point. I don't know if that's even a Game Awards thing, in general, to be honest with you. So those are a couple ideas. Again, I'd be expecting one or two. I mean, if we could walk out with a mix of, if we could walk out with like Gears and Crash, that would probably be like best case for me, just from a fan. If you get like a mix of Fable or Forza or Fable and Spyro or, something like that, or like a DLC to some random game, I would not discount those things. I think those things are within the realm of possibility. We'll see. I think Gears is the big one. Again, if you want like the big showing from Xbox, Gears or something Bethesda, and not Starfield coming to PS5. Like, that's big, but it's not that big. I would be talking like showing Elder Scrolls or announcing something for Fallout, even though it's not going to be ready for 5 more years, right? Something like that. Those would kind of be those far out predictions I'd have. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.